Today we're going to make end papers for the books. I'm going to start out by mixing up some wheat paste. This is just ordinary wheat wallpaper paste, and I have a container here that has about a little more than a half a cup of water in it. I'm going to add first about a tablespoon of flour, of the paste, and mix this up with the brush. I usually like to let the paste rest just a little bit, because when you mix it up first, it's a little thin. It's going to take another tablespoon here. I have a lot of water in there. When you first mix it up, it may be a little thin, but after about 10 or 15 minutes, it thickens up. See, this is like nice and loose now. When you brush your brush out like this, you don't want to see any water running out of the brush separate from the paste. It should all be sort of smooth. This may thicken up a little bit too much, in which case I'll add a little bit of water to it and let it rest a little more. But it's thickening up nicely now, as you can see. And this is about perfect. So while this is setting and getting into its final state, I'm going to cut the end papers. We have white paper, because we're going to make made end papers, and I have these marbles. And out of each sheet here, I will get 2 end papers for the book. Now when I cut the end papers for this, this is the actual end paper from the old book. You notice that it has some cloth on it. I'm going to first fold my end paper in half, because this is just about the right size, as you see, to get through with the little waste on the foredge. So I'm just going to fold the whole paper in half before I cut it. And then I'm going to cut it also longer, because I want to be able to put it onto the book and then trim the foredge and trim the tail to fit the book exactly. And because we have a backing, which is this little fold here, I can't really judge how much space I'm going to need on the foredge. So I'm going to go cut these now, and I'll be right back. I have cut the end papers, and I also cut 4 white sheets to make the made end papers. So this is how much leeway I'm giving for the trims. So you can see how large the book is, and the end papers that we're going to be making. Now I'm going to take the whites, and since they have a fold on one side, I'm going to reverse them. That way, when we make the made end papers, there will be a front and a back. And I've got this is 1 pair for 1 book, and this is 1 pair here. And also these end papers have a direction, as you can see, and I want to keep that in the same place. So I'll put those here. This is my gluing pad, and I have set the end papers with the spines on opposite sides. So I'm going to paste one. Oops, get this off the edge here. We haven't got all of it. There. And these white end papers are running, have the grain running head to tail, that is parallel to the spine. So I'm going to set this one to the to the left side. And then turn it over. I'm going to paste out the second sheet. And then I'll set this down and take the end paper, the second end paper, and set this one to the right side. Then I put these together as a pair between the pressing boards, and we're going to put it into the nipping press for a moment. So the reason that we're using the white end papers, and we cut these papers with the grain running head to tail, that is parallel to the spine. And the reason we do that is because when the paper gets wet, it's going to expand parallel to the grain. And you always want to have the paper, when it stretches out, it's going to shrink and curl slightly. And that curl will go toward the center of the book this way. Okay, the first end paper set is done. Checking here to make sure everything is together and unstuck on the edges. Okay, there we go. So now we'll do the second set. I wanted to show you one thing as I'm putting these end papers to rest under some weight. I'm actually going to put it in the press. You can see how the paper is stretching here. When it stretches parallel to the grain, you can see that the end paper was done with the grain going the wrong way for actually binding it. But we'll have to deal with that when we put it on the boards. And we'll use thicker boards so that it's not likely to cause any warping. Because the stretch is not not much at all. So anyway, I'm putting these together as pairs, my fronts and my backs. You know, so you can see it's all going in the correct direction for each of these end papers. And then I'm going to put them in between boards and into the press. It seems I made a mistake with the last placement of the end papers, and I wound up with two fronts. So what I had forgotten to do was to take the end papers as a pair and make sure they're in the right direction. And then what you would do is you would mark the head just on the outside like that. That way when you pick them up, you'll know which one is going to go in which direction. So in this case, I have to make two backs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the back, And I'm going to give this one a double mark because I've already marked this. So I know that I can pick that up. And this one also has to be a back. So I'm going to open this up and put this in the right position for a back. And I'm going to give this side a double mark. That way I know that I can set the head down, you know, like this, because I'm going to be doing it on the folded edges. I'll put the head down correctly on each one of these. I'm still going to put the whites with their folds opposite each other when I go to paste them out. And then hopefully I will have two backs to match my two fronts. So I'll take the first one, and then the end paper is marked. So I'm going to put the head on this side. And I'll do the second one now. This one down and put the head here. So now I have two backs, and I'm going to put these together as if they were a pair and into the pressing boards and give them a nip. Now the end papers are too wet right now for me to put them onto the book, so I'm going to let them rest under a board and await until they're dry. Before we begin, I want to show you something I found in the book. This is the original receipt for the purchase of the books, you know, with the Inman. This is it's dated 1894. But one of the interesting things about it is that the person who bought it, Miss Annie G., in Arkwright, RC, I don't know where that is exactly, was paying for this by subscription. She initially initiated it in December of 1894, and then in 1895, in February, she paid $6, and then March, April, May, and June, she also paid $5 each month. And the total for the two books, with their gilt edges and their fancy covers, was $31. Now, $31 in 1894 money was the equivalent of an entire month's pay for an average person. So anyway, I think that this is really interesting to have something so crisp from the actual purchase of the books. So I'm going to put it back inside where it was. And here are the end papers. They have dried overnight so that they're nice and crisp now. I'm going to keep one of these boards here to work on and put the other one away. And I want to get rid of these because they are shedding. All of this leather is still, you know, coming off. So I'm going to use this board as a support for the spine. One of the other things I have to do first, though, is prepare the glue. So I've always wanted to do this for this because I didn't have a chance to do it with my gluing videos, is to show you how I clean up the pan, because I don't wash it out, not using, because I don't want to use the water. It's just a waste of water, you know, to try to clean it out, and you never get it really clean anyway. So I let the residue of glue dry in the surface, and then you can pick it up like this, and it just comes right out of the pan. I use the glue to pick up the other residues because it sticks to itself. Some of these drips wanted to stay in here a little harder here, but they peel right off of the vinyl wallpaper paint pan. So there it is, all cleaned up. Now I'll get some glue, and this is PVA from Ernest Schaefer. I only need a little bit because we're not going to do anything more than attach the end papers and maybe do the spines. Okay, so I'm going to add just a touch of water to this, just to thin it down just a little bit. And mix it up. And then I can dampen the rollers so I know what it's doing here. And I'll put it here and put this aside now. Okay, back to the end papers. I'm going to check to see which is the top of the book, the head of the book. So this is the front. And I've got one pair of end papers here. So this is the front one for this, and then this is the back. I'm going to put this for the other book over here. Okay, now because we have a lip on the book, right here where the book has been backed, see how it has a sort of mushroom shape to it, and it has an angle, you know, right here. I want to make the end paper fit right inside there. Okay, I'm going to touch this up. This is a little bit of the old paper. I'm just going to put it right down with a little bit of glue here. Just stick it back and down, back in place. Okay, now in order to make this end paper fit, I'm going to bend it up on this side so that the edge of the end paper will fall right onto the end of the backing. So in order to do that, I'll take a ruler and I'm going to set this at approximately the same distance of the thickness of the fold here, and then bring this up like this. Hold the ruler tight. And then bring this fold right on up like that. Nice right angle. And then I'll test it and put it in here right on the head. And you can see that it fits, right in there. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this up. So I can put just about, it looks like there's a 1/4 inch on here, but I'm going to put on just about a 1/4 inch here to glue. And then I'm going to hold it up to do the fold. And now I'm going to line it up to the head because I want to line it up to one edge for sure, because we have to do some trimming, and then press this into place. Okay. Now you can see that the end paper is extended beyond the book on these two sides, the foredge and the tail. So what I'm going to do is set the book on the board. I have cutting boards here, and what I'm going to do is put the cutting board underneath the edge so I don't scar my board. I'm going to leave one sheet of paper down because that's the actual edge of the book, and put the ruler steel side down on there. If you have a ruler that has cork on the back, you have to put it with the steel side down because the cork raises it and then the paper could lift up when you go to cut. So I'm going to put this right on the edge of that paper, of the page. Drop the book down like that, and then with the Olfa knife press hard on the foredge and cut through the end papers. There. Okay. And then I'm going to turn this to cut the tail the same way. So I'll set my cutting board right on the end here, like that. And I lift this up, and I'm going to put just one page down, put the ruler in. And the ruler doesn't go all the way in because the end papers have been pasted down. So I'm putting it in as close as I can get it. And then I'm going to cut like that. Now the end paper is still attached, so I'm going to stand the book up, I'll put it here so you can see it, and then I take the scissors and I put the flat edge of these points right against the top of the book and finish the cut. And there we are. We have the end paper that matches and is onto the book. So now we'll do the second, the back of the book the same way. Oh, one thing I should show you also is I keep talking to you about the grain of the paper and how it should be parallel to the spine, but even the binders don't get it right sometimes, the big binders, because you can see this stretching here like that. That's the indication that the grain of the paper is actually running this way instead of parallel to the spine. Checking the end papers to make sure everything's the right way. Sometimes the papers will stick a little bit because on these marbles there's carrageen moss. And that's correct there. So now I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. The open edges and the fold, and I'm going to make this little fold here so that it fits. And you notice how I move my fingers up to keep it with the folder so that the ruler doesn't slide. Okay, now we'll glue this one out. Put down a mask. Press that just a little bit, like that. Oh, I think I got it all this time without having to pick up the other side. And this time I'm going to set this to the head as well. You can tell it's the head because I have the marks on the end paper. And push this into place. Oh, this one's a little bit short. Okay. I'm going to pull this out and do it again. That didn't go into position the way I thought it should go, so I'm going to re-glue this. Sometimes things like this happen because the book is maybe just a slight out of square. I'm going to make these edges match first. And bring this up to, yeah, it is slightly out of square there. Let's see. Okay, now that this is done, we can turn this over and do the same thing that we did to trim the excess end paper off of the book. Drop one page down, put the steel ruler in, match the edge of the page. Oops, I haven't got the cutting board in. I'm going to cut my board. there. Okay, we're still in position. Okay, there, okay. And then we'll do the other side as well, the tail. Okay. I can get pretty close on this one. Now I'll take the scissor. Oh, maybe I can just cut it like that. There. Okay. All done. Okay, we'll let this dry, which won't take too long. And I'll do the other book, and then we will line the spines.